I guess, in fact, the interesting thing, I walk around some of the places and they go, oh, I recognise that voice.
Really?
The voice, yeah. Yeah, more so, probably, because people, I think a lot of people might walk past TV and hear, recognise the voice and things like that. Whatever.
A lot of people still remember you from your shop.
Maybe. I used to race motors. All the really old guys remember from my bike racing, and they're all my age, I guess. And then from my truck racing days, and I guess now from my BBC commentary days. And my claim to fame is 37 years now without a proper job, which I don't intend. Well, I'm not sure what I'm going to be when I grow up.
That's awesome. But I was going to say about MotoGP, because obviously you see a lot of that and been watching it very closely over the last couple of years. And obviously you've seen Jorge Lorenzo kind of go through the 125s, 250s, and now MotoGP 2008. Fantastic season for him, despite really hurting himself there. But a lot of people think that perhaps maybe his title isn't really like a bit of a hollow victory because...
I'd say those people are idiots because he's scored more points than anyone's ever done in MotoGP. He's been as consistent as I've ever known a rider. And he's had one of those years that I don't think anyone will ever reproduce. His worst two positions have been fourth place, that's all he's ever had. The rest have been 16 podiums out there. And I truthfully am not taking anything away from anyone else, but I don't think there's any other rider out there that probably could have reproduced so, even Valentino Rossi. So I think he's a very worthy champion and he's going to be right there again next year. But I actually had my money, if I'm dead truth, I thought Casey Stone was going to have a better year than he did have, but he fell off early on, he lost a bit of confidence and he came back strong towards the end. But Jorge Lorenzo is a very worthy champion as far as I'm concerned.
Also, with the tyre developments now kind of like that kind of development changes in MotoGP, now they're kind of coming to the end of the 800cc development. And now they're thinking about moving to stock, so more stock engines. Is that kind of going to be the end of kind of MotoGP's like leading development rules and its kind of bike development?
I hope not, but you have a very valid point there. But it's a fine balance between having leading edge technology and cost escalating so that we've got two smaller grids. I actually think it's a good move. I don't think we'll see the bikes go a lot faster or change a lot. I mean, there was this big thing about, it was a knee-jerk reaction going from the 990s down to 800. It was really a lot to do with the Cato accident where a rider got killed. So the knee-jerk reaction, we must slow these bikes down. He didn't slow them down. All he did was make corner speed faster, which actually probably makes them more dangerous. I think what it's going to do is bring things back in line with the motorcycles that we see here at Motorcycle Live. Generally, the sports bikes are 1000cc. So we're going back to that, and I think in some ways it helps the research development department at Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, whatever you talk about, having an engine out there on the racetrack that is in the road bike. So I hope it won't take away a lot of that, but it certainly won't. We're still sticking with the electronics. We hear these stories about get rid of electronics. You can't. The bikes that are being sold here now, particularly BMW and Kawasaki, have electronics on them that would have been on MotoGP 2 years ago. And that's what the manufacturers want to do. Their racing is a development stage of their road bikes. We go racing because they sell road bikes. We don't go racing because they want to go racing.
Do you think the real changes are not from Dorna to kind of Beckham and like BMW and Aprilia from, say, with superbikes?
Possibly, but the Premier Division is MotoGP, and if anyone wants to be in the Premier Division, they're going to have to go into MotoGP, and quite possibly it will entice people like BMW and Kawasaki back into MotoGP and Suzuki in a stronger way. I think there's probably room for both. I see MotoGP being the Premier Division and kind of the technology edge. Superbikes really probably need to drop back to more super stock bikes, and then we've got a bigger discrepancy between the two.
See, well, but the more road-oriented bikes, the superbikes, they run on Pirellis, and then obviously with the stock bikes, moving back to sort of stock engine, MotoGP is very much a Bridgestone-oriented tyre development. I don't know, do they continue with tyre development now? Or?
Yeah, they are. Bridgestone have been testing different compounds and different constructions just recently in the MotoGP test, and I'm sure Pirelli have. Pirelli have done a wonderful job. They started off with a tyre that really wasn't that competitive, went on to breaking lap records, so I think that's continued. And I think any manufacturer, whether it be Bridgestone, Pirelli, Dunlop, who are in Moto2, they develop because they come up with new technology, they come up with new materials and continue to make things better. And they've got a whole grid worth of people to give them feedback as opposed to a quarter of the grid or whatever it might be. So it doesn't stop development at all.
After that, lastly, it's been 37 years in the industry in riding motorcycles, and you must have ridden everything from So slabs like G6Rs or RG500s, like, even like the early MotoGP bikes like the 500, the Honda NSR and stuff like that, which would use and ridden with superbikes and rear superbikes, even pretty much everything that's got 2 wheels off and 4 wheels. What would you say was probably your favourite, absolute favourite one that would stick out in your mind the most?
I've got 2 that stick out in my mind, I guess, that I've been very honoured to ride. One was the 6-cylinder Honda of Mike Hale's that came out of the museum and I got a chance to ride at Brooklands. And the other would be my first chance to ride the M1 Yamaha that Valentino Rossi won the World Championship on first time out. And they stick in my mind as much as anything, but realistically, I guess an RG500 also must sit in there, having ridden that in my World Championship period with Parrish. So probably 3 motorcycles that stick out in my mind. But I rode an RG500 just about 6 months ago at Silverstone at the build up to the British Grand Prix this year, and it felt like so slow. Just quite extraordinary how slow an RG500. It only had 110 horsepower, you've got to remember, which any 600 has these days. But it was great fun riding at the time. Riding Mike Hale's bike, who was a hero of mine, was great, and riding Valentino Rossi's bike, who was a hero of mine. So both those stick in. Now we have got Bradley Scott, we've got Cal out there, Danny Webb, Danny Kent's coming along. He's a good little lad as well. So forward to you have to only weigh 10 stone in those days. Anyway, take care. Thank you.